are back to a serious mode because today we are going to be talking about the step-by-step journey and how to go from a high school student to a bachelor student in Germany. So I'm going to be like breaking down like based on my experience on how that I first took my step back then from my home country to Germany until like applying as a student in Germany. And so let's start with the video. So the first step is the very important step, but a lot of people have been neglecting, especially me. When I first came to Germany, I didn't really think that this step was actually really important. It's the research step. When you are starting off like having that mindset, oh, I wanted to start my university in Germany, you need to first start off by researching about your major in Germany. Is your major like great in Germany? What kind of major do you want to go into, and what kind of universities are there in Germany? And also, like, you don't really have to do it at the first step. I mean, like, you could just like research about those universities. Did they open like in the summer season or in the winter season, or when are the deadlines for the application parts and something like that. I know like some of the people, especially like me, we could like always like change our mindset. Like at first I wanted to take like architecture study, and then like later on maybe you kind of like thinking, oh, I actually wanted to do engineering. So a lot of things can change, but take a clear picture of what like Germany looks like, what are the essentials and things that you need to do before you apply to those university, and just do like this kind of like small researches on them. And then the second one is, of course, to learn the German language. And I always say this to a lot of different people, like, just learn the language as fast as you can. So back then when I was like in high school, I took like a German extracurricular activity during my first year of high school, and it's not helping a lot with like my German language skills. It's just sad. And during my last year of high school, there's like a lot of things that I needed to do, like a lot of homeworks, a lot of preparations for the last exam and all of that. And so like if you have time during like your last year of high schools, maybe just like research a little bit about the German language. And one of my tips is that don't actually like start with like learning the vocabularies, you know. Don't just like, okay, what is like the German for how are you, and then just like, you know, memorize it. I don't think it's gonna work. Just focus on the grammatics first. I do feel like if you are learning a language, like you need to know like how the structure is, you know. Like I don't really like when you use like Duolingo, because like the structures and grammatics are not really clear. It's a really great place for you to exercise your language, but it's not a great place to start, I would say. Yeah, so maybe like just do some research about the German grammatics, and I think it's enough. And then of course the second part, searching for a language school. So there's kind of like not a lot of language schools for German in my country, but if you're like from Indonesia, I would really recommend Sprachenzentrum. Like I went there for my language school, and it was just like a really amazing opportunity to be able to go to a language school there. I was able to like get my B1 certificate in just like 2 months there. I was like shocked. It is a little bit intensive. Like I remember like the first time I actually learned the language, I was crying. Like I was crying in the first month. I was like, oh my god, this is like just too fast and too hard. But it is worth it at the end. So if you're like from Indonesia, I really do suggest that you went there. I'm just gonna like put the Instagram or link like right down below in the description box. The next one is of course to prepare for the QT exam. So for the visa requirements, you need to be able to show that you are able to speak German till B1. So I was striving for the engineering major. It is enough for a B1 language certificate for me, but I think that if you're also taking like medicals or something like that, like you need to be able to show that you are at a B2 level. It is consisting of like 4 parts. So the first is Leseverstehen or reading, and then Hörverstehen or listening, and then Lehrprüfung or like your speech, and then the last one is the writing assessment. If you really do take the Sprachenzentrum, they really have like a lot of like different resources for you to like practice. But I really do think that before, like when I was like in my language school, I also took like a lot of resources from the internet. I don't know if they're still free right now, but I really do suggest that you take a lot of practice for them. So for the Hörverstehen, I was still like not in that level of great German yet, but I listened to like this kind of small German YouTube videos back then. What I would recommend is there's this one YouTube channel. Most of like their stories are like just fantasy stories like Cinderella, Rumpelstiltskin, or like Swan Lake, something like that if you've heard of. And then I just like played it like every day. And then just suddenly like one day everything becomes clear to me. Like at the first time when I heard that, I was like, what are they talking about? I only know like maybe when they say like Cinderella eats or something like that, but like after a while when you like heard it like every day, you started like took some word, you know the word machen, or maybe you know the word essen or something like that, and you kind of like connect the dot in your brain. So I really do suggest that when you start off with this German language, maybe like took like 30 minutes to like an hour to just listen to this small like German YouTube videos. And for the Leseverstehen, also do that. Like try to like search for like small passages in German. Maybe like you could just download a Harry Potter PDF book. I wouldn't suggest actually like fantasy books, because some of like the words they use in the fantasy books you don't really use in your everyday life. So just like search for like small passages you can see in the internet and try to like read them like once or twice in a day. And then for the writing, like before, I have like this kind of like diary book. I try to like write as much as I can in the diary book, just like, you know, like write down about your everyday life. Like today I go eat in a restaurant, something like that. Like just wrote whatever you can using like your German language, and then like after like you do it like every day, you kind of like get kind of feeling like, especially like for the grammatics, like oh the structure is this, and then you also can get like a lot of vocabulary. Try to like put like some complicated vocabularies there. You don't need to like start with complicated things, but like try to get complicated like later on in the end. And then the last one is my favorite, the mündliche Prüfung. That was like really scared that I would meet someone who is actually more talkative than me, but in the end it's really great actually. So the mündliche Prüfung, it consisted of two parts. The first part, you were given like a theme, and then you would have to be able to explain to the judges like what do you think about the team. And then the second one is like a kind of a conversation with another person right there. So they were going to give you like another team, and then you have to talk to the person there in the room, and you're going to both like talk about it for like the 10 minutes or so. I was quite lucky that the person who I'm talking about is also from my language school, so we both kind of like know like, okay, maybe you do this first and then you do this. Next one, visa preparation. So for the visa preparation, I don't know if it's actually like different in each country, but the important thing that you need to have is the biometric portrait. I think like you have to follow like the German rules for the photo, and then this German proficiency, or maybe an English proficiency if you need to, and that is like the B1 certificate. So make sure that you are able to get your B1 certificate as fast as possible. I would say like work really hard for the B1 certificate, because it is actually quite expensive. Like I think one test cost, I don't know, 30 euros or something. So really do make sure that you excel on that, and so that you are able show that certificate during your visa. And then you need a passport. You need to have a photocopied version and also the original version. And also about the passport, make sure that you are months before you wanted to make the passport, try to renew it again so that you don't have to do it again in Germany. And then the visa application, they were going to give you like some kind of like paper that you need to fill, and just finish that paper and bring it to the visa application. And then of course you need your records. Yeah, school records. Oh my god, I forgot about it. School records. So take your school records. And also the thing about your school records is that you need to be able to translate it to German. So if you already know that you wanted to go to Germany, just go to your school, ask them to like put that kind of like legitimate stamp on it, and then after that bring it to someone who could like translate. I think like the name is like some kind of like legitimate translator or something. Just bring it to them, let them like translate it and then legitimate it, and then you have to bring it to the visa place. Don't forget to also take the original one. Last time I did forget about the original one. They didn't ask for it, but just to make sure, you know, just to make sure they don't do anything, because like these visa thing, it's like one chance only. It's gonna be like so hard to get another appointment, so make sure that you do everything right in the first appointment, okay? And then of course, you need to also have this blocked account. I used like Fintibia when I first came to Germany, but like these past few years I've been using Expatrio. Like Expatrio is a little bit cheaper than Fintibia, and it's also like faster than Fintibia, so maybe you could just try that out. And then last but not least, you need to have the certificate of admission at a German institute, and that is usually your Studienkolleg. So before the visa thing, you need to be able to write a lot of application forms to all of like these universities in Germany. Not all, but like places that have Studienkolleg on them, and then you need to like apply to them in their website and make sure you don't miss the deadline. Also like this one portal, the name is Uni Assist, and you can use them as well to apply to the Studienkollegs. So there are some Studienkollegs that don't need Uni Assist to apply. You could just directly apply to their website. But there's also like some universities that need you to first log in Uni Assist, and you need to pay like a certain amount to each of these universities to apply. So yeah, you can use these both things. And I would say like, yeah, I think it's better if you apply to as many Studienkollegs as you can, because you never know, right? So I think like back then I applied to like around 10 Studienkollegs because I was like so afraid that something would happen in one of the Studienkollegs, and you may never take your chances. So yeah. So after all of these things, like the Studienkolleg admission, visa preparation, and the next step is for you to prepare for the Aufnahmeprüfung or INP. Don't forget to buy your tickets as well if you're like flying or your visa is on January. Make sure that you fly in like right after that, like maybe like a little bit like 2 or 3 days after that. Find a place to stay. Back then my test for the Aufnahmeprüfung is actually offline, so you need to be there to take the INP. But during my sister's time, I think they were able to do it online. So if you are able to finish and succeed in your NP Aufnahmeprüfung online, then the next step for you is just to wait until you get the result. And if they really take you as a Studienkolleg student, then the rest is like just to pay the semester bite. So like I think you have to pay for around like 300 for the semester, and these 300 is already cutting off your semester fee and also your transportation. So I would say like make sure you finish that as fast as you can so that you could come and not have to pay extra for the transportation, I would say. So yeah, prepare for the INP. That is like really important. The hardest part of the INP is the C test, so make sure that you have like a lot of training for the C test and language. Focus on it, focus on the structures, focus on the grammatics. And also like there's 3 kinds of types of Studienkolleg. I think there's like the economy, the technique, and I think the arts. So make sure like you know which kind of Studienkolleg that you wanted to go into. And for the technique part, like they take also like mathematics and physics. I kind of forgot what I did take, but I think like there's also mathematics for the ANP test. So you need to prepare for that as well. Next step would be like if you are accepted in one of the Studienkollegs, then you would need to search for a place to stay. And the place where I did take the Studienkolleg is kind of hard to find a place to stay. And like I got a report from my sister because she's also taking the same Studienkolleg as I did. I do heard that these days like searching for a place to stay in Germany is really hard, especially like with the bureaucracy and all. It's really hard. So I would suggest maybe you can apply for the Studentenwohnheim or student dormitory like before you even came to Germany, because sometimes there is this choice that you could apply to it even though you are not accepted at Studienkolleg yet. So make sure you try that out, and maybe if you're lucky you're gonna get that. And then just fly to Germany and then stay in your places to stay, or maybe if you don't have a place to stay, maybe you could ask like some of these students organizations for a place to stay for like maybe a month or so, and then you can like just search for it yourself. There are some like apps that you can use like Wiki-gesucht or like Immobilienmakler, things like that, or even like Facebook. You could search for that, and then you can like come to the person on your own, so maybe you could like see what the room is like and just make vertrag. After that, of course, you need to be able to make your bank account, and I would really suggest for you to use Commerzbank. I think that's like a lot of people uses Commerzbank. Sparkasse is also quite a good one, but the thing is that usually people don't stay in the same place they did their Studienkolleg. Yeah, mostly, okay? But if you do plan on staying like in the place you take your Studienkolleg, then I think Sparkasse is fine. It's just that Sparkasse, if you leave that place for good, maybe you take a university at another city, then it's really hard if you have problems, you know, like for example, you are locked from your card and you need, with your account, you need to be able to go back to that other city and do some work on it, because they're not able to switch, you know, they're not able to switch cities. But for Commerzbank, you could just easily do it anywhere. So yeah, I really do recommend Commerzbank. That's basically it for the Studienkolleg in Germany. There's like different types of Studienkolleg. There are Studienkollegs that are going to last for around like 3 months. There's also one that is going to last you for around 1 year. And after you finish your Studienkolleg, you're going to have to face the FSB exam. And when you do get your score, what I would suggest is like find as soon as possible an appointment with the Bürgeramt. Say that, okay, I need to apply to other universities and you need a legitimate stamp on it. That appointment as fast as you can, so that you're able to apply for the universities as fast as you can. I remember that in my time, it is actually quite a small time space between like the application deadline and also the day where I receive my my FSB results. So just make sure you do it as fast as you can, so that you could able to do all of these like processes fast. So the application process for the university is kind of the same when you first went to the Studienkollegs. There are parts of like the university that asks you applications in Uni Assist, or maybe you could do it directly at their portal. Just like search of all of these universities and their websites. They're also like this kind of website where you can compare these universities, like which one is best for mechanical engineering or which one is best for physical engineering, that kind of stuff. So just choose your university, apply for it. They usually like ask for documents. You need to send for documents, but there are also times there they just ask for like the online PDFs or things. It's kind of like different from each university, but I think it's not that really hard. There are some of the universities that also ask for portfolio, especially if you're architecture students, to make sure you have that, especially if you're like from design or media design, international marketing and something like that. They usually ask for some portfolio. Make sure you are finishing your application before the deadlines. There are also some that ask for motivational letters, so make sure that you also have that. There are also like some universities that ask for your IELTS, because their language of bachelors is in English, but there's not a lot of that in engineering, so I would say. But if you do really want to take an English university in Germany, make sure you have the IELTS thing. Maybe you could also already do it in your home country as well. And yeah, if you got accepted to the university, make sure that you find the apartment as soon as possible. Like for me, I did apply for my apartment before I got accepted to the university, and I was pretty lucky that I was during the Corona pandemic time, and I think like a lot of people moved out of the student dormitory, and so I was able to get a place in the student dormitory. So just try to like maybe apply as much as possible to the student dormitory so that you can get a place to stay. And I really do have to warn you that finding a place to stay in Germany is like hell. So make sure that you are able to like find it as soon as possible, okay? The hardest part is not applying to the university. The hardest part is searching for a room to stay. That's it basically. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and now I have an appointment to watch a movie with SpongeBob. Okay, so bye!